Join us today for an action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, where we're talking about pitchers that we're targeting in rounds 2 through 5.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane. And you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and also gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. On Subtext, it's a one-on-one, in-depth, personalized experience, and you get text messages, alerts right to your phone. Guys, we've released our rankings on there. Matt and I's rankings go super deep, like 40 at every infield position, outfield over 100, starting pitcher over 100. We're going to have breakout, sleepers, busts sooner than later. Make sure you guys, you can get help with your keepers, your dynasty teams, who you're going to keep, all that stuff, plus more. Make sure you join us on Subtext. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKON for $20 off your first purchase. And guys, as I mentioned at the top, we did batters already. Now we're talking about our favorite pitching targets, starting pitching targets, rounds 2 through 5. Matt, who are we talking about first, my brother?
All right, we're talking Corbin Burnes here. Now, again, like I explained yesterday too, the whole purpose is to kind of break down who we would target in each round if we were to pick at that position or, between pitcher and hitters. So, right now, like Corbin Burnes, round 3, beginning of round 3 is a little still too rich for my blood. I generally don't pick a pitcher in the first 2 rounds. And even in the 3rd round, like it depends. Like this early, like there's still a whole bunch of bats on the table. But if you do feel so inclined to have a higher end, higher up on the pecking order pitcher, I'm okay with picking Corbin Burnes at pick 26. Corbin Burnes had a great season last year. A little slower than we're used to, essentially, because quite honestly, the last 2 years, or pretty much the last 3 years, he's finished with a sub-3 ERA, and his first year over 3 and a 3.39. But still did his thing either way. Still was elite. 193 innings pitched, 200 Ks, 3.39 ERA, like I said, with like a 106 WHIP, like stellar numbers. Not normal Corbin Burnes, but at the same time, like I don't foresee any reason why he couldn't return to the norm. And if above 3, it's like a 301, 302. Like Corbin Burnes is just stellar. And, I don't see a issue where he can't even return to his well over K per 9 strikeout rate as well. So Corbin Burnes still an elite pitcher at the top there. But again, just a little too rich for my blood in terms of just being that high.
Yeah, Matt, we're on board in the sense of we had talked about this in the last episode. My strategy for the last, I want to say like 3 or 4 years, and it's paid off, is I've gone 3 elite bats in my first 3 rounds. Then I'll start to target pitchers in the 4th round. Now, with that being said, I do want to throw out 2 quick things here, just based on this episode. Now we said we're targeting, talking about pitchers that we're targeting rounds 2 through 5. You may have noticed we're starting off around 3. At this point in time, we're using NFBC ADP. There is not one starting pitcher going. Actually, no pitchers at all, including relief pitchers, closers, from picks 13 to 24. So round 2 right now is all bats. Round 1, you got your Cole and your Strider, but Matt and I are not taking starting pitchers in the first round. That's not how we operate. If you please to do so, that's on you, but you're passing up the chance to get an elite bat that, you're not going to have another shot at in any other round. The first round bats are the first round bats for a reason, and I think it's not a great strategy to take a starting pitcher that early. But now when we get to round 3, which is where we're at, Corbin Burnes, I think this is the lowest we've gotten him in the past, we're talking about since 2021. So the last 2 years, last 3 years, this is the cheapest we're getting him. last year, I think it's an outlier year because all the underlying stuff for Corbin Burnes looks fantastic. Didn't really lose much velocity on any of his pitches, a little bit on that cutter. He throws 5 pitches. All of them are pretty strong. The break on his off speed stuff looks great. Batters don't hit the ball against him very hard. Gets a lot of swings and misses. Doesn't really walk a crazy amount of guys. Just does everything that you want a starting pitcher to do. The strikeouts did take a little bit of a dip last year, but honestly, with all the pitchers struggling the way they did last year, I think Corbin Burnes, regression was about on par for, the normal with starting pitchers last year. I think Corbin Burnes can get back to, a very low 3s ERA. I think the K per 9 can get back up a little bit more. I think the whip stays, pretty much elite. If you want to jump into that 3rd round and take a starting pitcher, I think that's the guy that you should really target, Corbin Burnes.
Yeah, facts. I completely agree. Dom, you want to take this next guy? Or you want me to hit it?
Well, I'll start the conversation with these next guys. So in round 3, Corbin Burnes is the first pitcher off the boards. Then you have Zach Wheeler, Kevin Gausman, Luis Castillo, and Zack Gallen, right? I'll grab the next guy that I would probably target right now. If I had to target another guy, Corbin Burnes is my main target in round 3, but I do want to talk about the next guy I want to talk about falls out of this round, Matt. So I'll say the other guys that we kind of have lined up here, I really wouldn't be targeting around 3. Like I said, I'd rather wait for that round 4, but if I am taking anyone around 3, it's Burnes. I'm not really targeting anybody else. So why don't you kind of lead the way here with these next couple of names, and why don't you kind of just do a quick hit on each of them?
All right, sounds good, because I agree too. Like, I mean, these are all too rich for my blood.
Yeah, so then you know what? We can kind of just do a generalization talk about these guys. Like, we kind of do that if you want. Take that route with them.
Yeah, I mean, this is ultimately to break down and like, hey, make you feel okay with like why you could take these guys in this round and why they're there. This isn't really like a complete draft strategy, but like these are the guys that like we would target in each round essentially, if we do so want to take them in that round, and without me talking too much in circles. But anyway, let's just go down the list. We'll talk about it and then go from there. So like, I'm just going to take the first name here, Zack Wheeler. Zack Wheeler obviously has all the upside in the world with being a Philadelphia Philly in those lineups and that lineup. But again, a little still too rich for my blood. He's what, like the pitcher 4 off the board, 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me count it up for you real quick.
Like
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's the 4th starting pitcher off the board, which is
5th.
Yeah,
it's insane. Like, I'm not about that. Like, that's too much for me. But 3rd round is bad. It's not a bad price. It's actually a pretty nice value. Again, that's still too rich for me, even though just based off of my rankings, I have Wheeler, as my 9th pitcher. So there's other guys I'd definitely take above him. But anyway, Wheeler, if you do want like somebody that's solid in your lineup, that's done it like 50 times, Wheeler is your pick. If you want to solidify him as your 1. He had a good season, not my favorite from him, with the higher ERA that we've seen in the last couple of years, especially since 22, 21, and 2020 were all sub 3. He hasn't had an ERA like this since 29, but I don't think the talent is gone. There was just some mechanics going on that they fixed at the end of the season where he kind of changed everything. And he also had a FIP, which is fielding independent pitching at 315. So, he pitched a lot better than actually what he was producing. So Wheeler, I wouldn't be mad at you if you went and picked Wheeler in this round. I just, again, wouldn't be how I would construct my team, unless there was like a pitcher run. So I want to like kind of make you feel okay with it too. Like there's a run of pitchers going and you're going to miss based off of these tiers. If you don't have the first 2 tiers as your pitcher 1, then okay, I'm going to start looking at Wheeler. But, again, too rich for my blood.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Wheeler. We're on the same page with him there. He's coming off the board, SP4. I have him as my SP8. Just not taking him there. He is an SP1, not an elite SP1 in my opinion, but, you could definitely take him as your first starting pitcher, and he'll be solid for you. And even though he's going to be 34, he's getting a little older, I think there's still decent amount left in the tank for Zack Wheeler. But with that being said, guys, we're going to talk about, we're going to get into that 3rd round here after this. A lot of big names at starting pitching, and you're definitely going to want to stick around to see who Matt and I are targeting at starting pitching early in the draft. But with that being said, we've got a quick ad break for you guys. And guys, we're talking about Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. That's why you need to check out the Gametime app. Gametime is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, and comedy and theater in your area. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Using the Gametime app is super rewarding with flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, images and exact views from the seats you'll be sitting in, lowest price guarantee and event cancellation protection, and they have all-in prices shown up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets and the lowest prices always guaranteed. And guys, real quick before we move on, Locked On has launched its first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On plus national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel today. And guys, real quick, once again, just a reminder about Subtext. On Subtext, it's a great platform to join us on. Everyone's getting geared up for the baseball season. There's not many places where you can find in-depth rankings and talk to, some experts, get dynasty, advice, get keeper advice. We're going to have all sorts of great articles, tier rankings on Subtext, so make sure you join us on there. But with that being said, Matt, that's a lot of talking for me. Why don't we pick up here in round 3 and talk about what pitchers we're targeting for round 3?
All right. So, this is kind of where, you're on the cusp, right? Okay, hey.
I meant to say round 4, by the way. I meant to say
Yeah.
pitchers we're targeting round 4. That's my fault, guys.
It's all good. Don't let it happen again.
Yeah, a lot of talking there for me. I got confused.
It's all good. So anyway, now, dude, this is round 3.
Well, let's move on from round 3. Let's move on because we're not really targeting these guys, and I feel like if we're not going to target them, let's move on to that next round.
All right, screw it. Let's do it then. All right, let's talk about Zack Gallen. Pick 38.
Perfect.
You know what? This is actually a really nice one. I actually have him super high this year. If you're really thinking about it,
me too.
He's my number 4 pitcher, and I'm able to get him.
Me too.
It's an absolute steal. What he did last year, was great. Even though, quite honestly, you're probably the reason why he's going this late is just based off of the fact that how he finished out the year. And I get it. There is some concerns, and his concerns are built into his draft price, but I don't think they're legitimate concerns. And the reason being is this is the most innings he's ever thrown in his career. 210 innings pitched. And he had that pretty much locked down, middle of end of August, and was just pretty much cranking it up by then. And then still went on into the playoffs and still pitched. He just was not himself. I look at Gallen and I go, okay, you're at your season high. You're okay, you started to see some fatigue. And you know what? Hey, this is the growing pains of what an elite pitcher has to go through. And you know what? It's totally worth it. I think him going into it as your 1, getting him in the 4th round is just something you just got to do. I think commit to it and just do it. Because I think this year we're going to see something really come into fruition where just wow, this kid's elite. And he did it for a full season because through 102 innings pitched in the first half, right? We had 118 innings. I apologize. He had a 3.04 ERA with 125 strikeouts, stellar numbers. In the second half, he had 91 innings and he had a 4.03 ERA with 95 strikeouts. Still, the K per 9 was over and whatnot, but the ERA definitely started to fall off as you got later into the season because also too, you look at it and you look at his ERA from that time, right? You saw right in July after he's done 3, 6, 9. Once he started creeping over the season high right after the All-Star break, ERA of 4.45, and even August was 3.19. He kind of figured it out a little bit. But then October again 4.17. He really just had 2 bad months of baseball. And okay, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say, okay, he's going to do this for a full season this year. And I don't care what kind of fatigue. I think him and his training staff are going to work on it and pretty much correct the issue.
Yeah, Matt, we're on board with Zack Gallen. I think the value here is absolutely fantastic. You're getting him at starting pitcher number. What is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have him as my 4th starting pitcher off the board. I think Zack Gallen takes it to another level this year. So I'm on board, which is Zack Gallen, I think, is the absolute best target in the 4th round. But now we're talking about, we're talking about the 4th round here. And that's just where Matt and I really want to jump in. And I think the next best target after Zack Gallen for the 4th round, I love George Kirby. I think he's kind of like the industry darling of this year that has really moved up so high. But there's every reason to believe George Kirby can take it to the next level. His stuff is absolutely elite. The control, honestly, the guy has some of the best control that I've seen in a long time. And there's just really an upside for a kid that's 25 years old to just really become, an upper echelon starting pitcher. You do have to pay up for him at pick 41, but honestly, I think it's worth it. A 3.35 ERA for Kirby last year, 31 starts, 190 innings, 172 strikeouts, a 1.03 WHIP. The FIP was a 3.34, so he's right on par with his ERA, with the ERA indicators. This kid's just going to be elite. He's going to be elite for a long time to come. I'm taking him this year as an SP1, a lower end SP1, and I think it's going to pay off. Let me see where I have Kirby ranked again in my starting pitching. I moved Kirby up to my 10th starting pitcher, but I can honestly see him moving up even a little bit more in my rankings. I think Kirby is the future face of not only his team, but of the MLB. He's going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad I was able to get you to move up even a tad.
Yeah, he's up. He's moved up.
Dom had him in like the 20s to start off our ranking.
Yeah, there's tweaking and moving along a little bit, but when you just deep dive on this guy, you just really see how the talent is, and there's really potential. He throws that slider that's pretty good, and I could see him getting more swings and misses with that slider, and even the curveball is decent for him too. So just the sky's the limit for Kirby, pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, quite honestly, too, you look at it, right? And you go, okay, like Kirby isn't a K per 9 guy, and I understand your argument as to why you're not ready to deem him where I have him ranked at 7. He could get there, but also too, you think about it, he still pitched what this year? 200 and no, I'm sorry, did he get 200? I was locked
190 innings.
190 innings. 190 innings. So that's great, right? Yeah, he fell short only by 18, whatever. But here's your worst case scenario, because if they're letting him throw 190 innings, I think he's going to do what Sandy Alcantara did, and this is my comparison.
You took my spot on, brother.
Yeah. 228 innings, and still he had 200 strikeouts. So, he'll be an innings eater and still go, even though it's 18 short, he's still going to have 200 Ks. And we were drafting Sandy Alcantara last year in almost the first two rounds. And you were like, okay, I got a stud. This is George Kirby's upside is Sandy Alcantara's 2021. And that's the worst case scenario for George Kirby. But honestly, I think the K per 9 could get there, and this dude could be super elite. So, you really think about it, you could be getting the pitcher 3 at pick 41, whereas pitcher 3 is going mad high in the 2nd round. So, this could be the lowest you get George Kirby. And honestly, too, I could foresee Kirby is almost finishing as the SP1 this year. If I'm really throwing out bold predictions right now, but it's a little too early.
That's a bold one. But the upside's there. The upside's there.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if that's my bold prediction for this year. I'm in love with George Kirby. But before we move on and we talk about our next guy here, we do have one more sponsor for you. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place any $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays or just regular parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab, which is awesome and super helpful. And any parlay and Parlay Pub to find the most popular parlay and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a touchdown. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Now, since we spent 15 minutes on Gallen and 15 minutes on Kirby, I think we'll just move on and cruise through this. So first off, we're going to talk about Tyler Glasnow going to pick 44. Now, I like Tyler Glasnow. I don't know if I'm actually targeting Tyler Glasnow at pick 44 though. I like the upside of now his new team of the, Dodgers. I like all that capability. I just I still just want to see him stay healthy, right? Like, okay, he's not on the level of Clayton Kershaw where I know I'm going to accept the hurt and just draft him. And just when he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Tyler Glass now is just hasn't been a picture of health his whole career. And I'm kind of just like, okay, cool. But when he did come back last year, he did have a good season at 120 innings pitched, at 162 strikeouts, and 353 ERA. Now, those are stellar numbers with also a FIP of 291, which is fielding independent pitching. How he would normally pitch if he had an average defense behind him. So Tyler Glass now had a great year with that being said. But again, I don't know if I really feel comfortable going with him. If I'm picking between him and Kirby, it's going to be Kirby. And honestly, too, it may even be the next guy over Tyler Glass now, just based off of the fact that he finally played a full season, which we'll eventually talk about. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Glasnow. I don't have too much to add there. It's just all about the injuries. If Glasnow can somehow put together, let's say, 170 innings this year, he's going to be SP top 5 starting pitcher with Glasnow. So that's the upside. You're kind of going to have to risk and reward with Glasnow. I think if you've really waited on starting pitching and you pick towards the end of the 4th round, you can go Glasnow and, just go safer with your SP2. But that's Glasnow. Upside is through the roof. Potential is through the roof. Just a little bit of a risky pick. Let's talk about this next guy. Let's talk about Pablo Lopez. And Pablo Lopez is a guy, once again, as Matt said, I don't know if I'm absolutely targeting him here, but I really love what I see, especially when I do a deeper dive on Pablo Lopez. All the underlying stuff looks great for him. Last year, he got up to 194 innings, 366 ERA, 32 starts, 234 strikeouts, and a 115 whip. I think there's another level here. I think there's a if everything goes right type of situation where, Pablo Lopez could potentially have a low 3s ERA closer to where his FIP is. The strikeouts are going to stay elite and the whip is going to stay elite. Pick 45, I think, is fair for him. I have Pablo Lopez ranked as my SP16. I'd like to get Lopez as my SP2. And if I could do that, I honestly love it. Now, but Lopez is a guy that I'm probably going to try and pair with somebody who's probably, a little bit more safe if I'm going to SPs early, right? With that being said, though, that's really all I have on Pablo Lopez. I do think he is a great starting pitcher, and I think there is a chance he could take it to the next level this upcoming season at 28 years old.
Right. And I agree. Like, I like Pablo Lopez as much as you do. Now, again, especially over Tyler Glasnow, but my next pick, the next guy is actually the pick I'm picking over both of them, in my opinion. And that's Aaron Nola. Now, this is twofold, and you might think I'm a little crazy, but Aaron Nola's season last year wasn't like, a studly Aaron Nola season, and not what I predicted either, because my bold prediction was him winning the Cy Young, and he didn't come anywhere close to that. He had like a 4.46 ERA. But here's the thing. There was some issues, and again, there were some mechanic issues that they fixed at the end of the year that kind of made him, correct some of the things. But still, Aaron Nola is also one of those guys that just had one inning too many that just was a mess up and kind of reflects his ERA more than what it really should be, and the final result should be a lot better than that, but unfortunately it just didn't happen. Now, that's part of the reason why I'm saying on more of a statistical base, right? And now here's more of like, the fandom part of me where it's like, okay, the sports kind of superstition. This is actually the other year now for Arnold. He's an every other year player where he has a really bad year and then he has a really good year.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the other year. Aaron Nola is probably going to have a great season where he's going to have a sub 3.5 ERA, and he's going to have well over a K per 9, and he's just going to show it off, and he's going to fix all his mistakes. He is a tinker. We used to go through these problems with, thou shall not be named, but I'll name it anyway, just so you get the comparison. Trevor Bauer. And, Trevor Bauer was every other year because he's always tinkering with something of his grip, the way he would spin the ball, anything of the sort. And that's what Nola does too. And he constantly is playing with his mechanics to evolve and help him age better. So, Aaron Nola, I think, is going to have a fine season, especially since he didn't move on to another team. So I think Aaron Nola is a solid pick, especially all over Glasnow and Lopez. I think they're below him. And then it's, Lopez, and then probably the next guy, and then Glasnow for me.
Yeah, so as we moved from round 4, with Lopez at pick 45 to round 5, Nola pick 53, it gets real interesting here in the 5th round. There's a couple of names that I really like. Nola's interesting, Matt. You broke him down perfectly. I don't have too much to add because I agree about everything. I have Nola as my SP10 right now. But it's so tricky for me because you look at that 2022 from Nola, and it was a 3.25 ERA, 32 starts, 205 innings, 235 strikeouts, and an 0.96 whip. And Nola's ceiling is a lot higher than a lot of these pitchers going after him. But do you want to take that risk? Do you want to play the every other year thing with Nola? I'm not sure if I want to do that. But we move on. These next 2 pitchers we're going to talk about, I might move them ahead of Nola. I'm not sure. I have to keep deep diving, and rankings change and change and change. But let's move on to the next guy. Right? Let's talk about him. Let's talk about the guy with the best nickname in all of baseball that Matt gave to him, the pterodactyl, Tarek Skubal. I think Skubal's upside is a top 5 starting pitcher, and I honestly think it could happen this year. I could see Skubal throwing 150, 160 elite innings with a low 3s, high 2 ERA. The K per 9 is going to be absolutely out of this world. I think if he gets to the 150 innings, the strikeouts could be 180 plus. The whip is going to be elite. His control is phenomenal. When you talk about, FIP, this guy had one of the craziest ERA FIP differences in a good way. 2.80 ERA, as I just mentioned, for Skubal. A 2.00 FIP for Skubal. Going to be 27. We saw the glimpse of greatness in 2022 when he made a couple of changes. He does everything right. I think Skubal's upside is absolutely through this world. And if we're getting him at pick 54, you can get him as your SP2. If you went like a Burnes in the 3rd and a Skubal in the 5th, I'm not mad at that, because then you know what, you can wait even later at starting pitching. But it's an interesting thing because I'll tease it now. We're gonna do an episode, based kind of around round 6 and a little bit maybe round 7 starting pitchers. There's a big glob there of starting pitchers too. But this is I'm really starting to dig round 5 starting pitching, and later I'm really starting to dig the names that are going around that time. And Skubal's definitely one of the guys I'm targeting.
Yeah, and quite honestly too, like as we get into the season, we talk about draft strategy. Like these are the 2 rounds I probably go back to back. And to be able
you could do that. You could do that here.
Yeah, and to be honest, like Skubal for me isn't. I don't have him anywhere as near as high as Dom. Like I have Skubal at 29. Like I'm willing.
Buried. Yeah. I got him at 17. Buried Skubal. You said I'm not getting him anywhere this year.
I pretty much won't. But here's the thing: like, if for instance, I am willing to take the shot on him in that league, and I'm like, okay, a few of the other names have went ahead of him, which I doubt is going to happen. I feel like the hype is too high on him for him not to go early. And I feel like he creeps up even another round. It's just not the right place for me to walk away with Skubal, but I can understand why. So Skubal for me is great, but here's a guy I'm actually going to pick over him and has moved up in my rankings, and that's Freddie Peralta. This is Dom's boy. Has been trying to get me to get him into my top 10, and it isn't going to happen for me. But I did move him up to 12. And
you got him higher than me. I got to move him up to 11 now. Damn.
Like Peralta, just you look at it and you look at Peralta's like surrounding numbers, and last year he was hurt, kind of came back and showed out in 2022. I apologize. I forget we're in 24 now. And then came back this past year, 2023, and in 165 innings, really had a nice season with 210 strikeouts, a 3.86 ERA, which is not the greatest, but also not atrocious. And his FIP was right on par at 3.85. So like he was pitching to it. And then to be honest, his whip was a 1.17, a 1.11 actually. And I'm not mad at those stats. And I think Peralta has another level where the ERA is probably going to be sub 3.5, more like a 3.25. And the K per 9 is going to be there. And if this dude just even hit, whiffs around 180 innings pitched this year, the strikeout numbers could be absolutely bonkers. So I think Peralta is a solid one. I'm probably kicking him over a lot of these dudes in this round. Honestly, it would pretty much, if I was ranking how these guys are going just based off of this round, it's Kirby, Nola, Peralta, Lopez, Glasnow, then Skubal for me. And I'm all about Peralta this year. I think at this pick, if I don't have any of these other guys sitting there in the 5th round for me, it's Freddie Peralta without even blinking.
I think Freddie Peralta is like the perfect SP2. That's why I
Mhm.
have him ranked at 13, because I think he's the perfect SP2. I just want to talk about his last 11 starts last year. Freddie Peralta's last 11 starts, he had 8 wins, 3 losses, 62 innings, 92 strikeouts, only 11 walks, 2.44 ERA, 2.51 FIP, batters hit 185 against him. Freddie Peralta has another level. He has another level to him. He has a low 2s ERA with 200 innings, 250 strikeouts in him. It's in there. He's going to be 28 this year. I really think he takes it to that next level. But with that being said, guys, that's all for today. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Make sure you check us out on Subtext. But guys, until next time, see you.
Peace.